Club Q survivors testify on anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric as hate starts with speech. In a House hearing on Wednesday, survivors of anti-LGBTQ violence and LGBTQ organizational leaders called for legislative action and highlighted the violent dangers of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Some witnesses called for further legislative action on gun control, while many identified the harmful role lawmakers on the local and national levels have played in amplifying anti-LGBTQ attitudes through legislation and rhetoric. James Slaugh, a patron of Club Q who was shot in the arm during the gunfire, testified to the connection between anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and hate crimes. In his testimony, he said, quote, "Hate starts with speech. The hateful rhetoric you've heard from elected leaders is the direct cause of the horrific shooting at Club Q. We need elected leaders to demonstrate language that reflects love and understanding, not hate and fear," end quote. Club Q founding owner, Matthew Haynes, asked members of Congress to protect LGBTQ rights through legislation and vocal support of the community, saying, quote, "We need safe spaces like Club Q more than ever, and we need you, our leaders, to support and protect us. We are being slaughtered and dehumanized across this country and in communities that you took an oath to protect," end quote. At least 200 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced in state legislatures in 2022, according to data compiled by the American Civil Liberties Union, and a June GLAAD study found 70% of LGBTQ Americans said discrimination toward the community has increased within the last 2 years. So if you saw those testimonies, they were really powerful, emotional, and on point. But the question remains whether what was said will actually be taken to heart, and when and if we will ever see any action taken on our behalf.
And this goes back to the earlier point I was making about the more visible we become or others are, including us. Like now you can watch any show and you can see a gay character. And I believe that is what's driving the confusion within someone who may be struggling with how they identify. Unfortunately, it seems like they are resorting to violence by that. And it would make a difference, you know, if we had government officials standing behind the message that we are all one, we are all equal. But there's been so much division. You know, we see it with elections and everything that goes on politically. There's just a lot of division. And so it's giving a person who would go and shoot up a space like that the, you know, the thought that they're serving justice of some sort. And I just wish that we would just get to a point, love is the foundation. We're all equal regardless of how we look, because we all look different. We all, you know, have different characteristics. So let's just be more accepting.
Except for me and Craig.
Well, with the exception of you two.
We can't help it.
No, you know, hate and fear facilitate fundraising. That's what it is. Hate and fear drive fundraising. Fundraising drives people, hate and fear drives people to the polls. Hate and fear drives wedges bigger than any fence that you could ever put up between neighbors. That is what it is. The answer to everything always comes back to money. They raise money off our fear. They raise money off other people's hate. They raise money off of the violence that they can show. Look, we're outside of a drag queen story hour. You know, send us money so that we can spread this message and protest more libraries and make more people feel unsafe, because it's their own insecurities. I mean, we've had enough psychologists and psychiatrists on this panel to know words matter.
Yes. Yeah.
People don't come to these conclusions on their own, in their own space. It's their interactions with other like-minded people that drive the hate and drive the violence and the increasing threats of violence.
It strikes me, you know, I'm going to be kind. The person who shot up Club Q, allegedly, he decided he was non-binary, if I remember this correctly. And I sort of have.
He said it.
He said it.
There's no background of history in his.
And that's
social
fine, but
text,
hear me out.
Okay.
I have to wonder how many of these people are, there's that old adage of, the most homophobic guys are, doing whatever in the back alley. I have to wonder how many of these are, they're just so
They're
damaged.
struggling with their own issues.
I think this is beyond struggling. They're just so damaged that they just don't, pardon the expression, think straight. Or maybe,
Yeah, because of childhood. A lot of behavior starts from childhood, and what fear, to your point, was created basically by your environment that told you can't express yourself.
And speaking of expressing ourselves.
All right.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.